Hello, this is my first YouTube slash audio Odyssey video. I'm still trying to figure out which of the alt tech platforms might be the best to try to upload videos onto, but I think Odyssey, YouTube, maybe Rumble, BitChute are going to be the ones that I'm focusing on for now. Probably get like a PeerTube instance later, but today I want to talk about why you should take the Benedict pill. And this right here is the Life of St. Benedict by St. Gregory the Great. St. Benedict, he lived during a time kind of similar to our own, the collapse of the Roman Empire. Everything was basically crumbling, falling apart. I think we can learn a lot from him. I read this book, kind of found it by chance. Actually, my roommate gave this copy to me, and I think that the situation that St. Benedict was in is very relatable to what we're facing today. So what I mean by the St. Benedict pill is there's kind of a progression in kind of like the conservative world where you start out as being blue pilled, which is you believe the mainstream narrative, you believe evolution, you believe just all the lies we've been told in school. And so everyone starts out blue pilled for the most part, unless you're lucky and your parents are red pilled. So you start out blue pilled, then you become red pilled, and red pilled. That's basically, it basically means that you have found a deeper truth, that you realize that the narrative that we're told growing up is actually not true, and so you could be red pilled on many different subjects. The problem is that when people get red pilled, they say, they get red pill overdose. Like, imagine you can take one pill at a time, but if you take like the whole thing all at once, then it's like too much. You have to kind of digest those pills, those red pills. And I think a lot of people, when they get too red pilled, they become black pilled, and they kind of lose hope. They become despairing. They kind of become despondent, and they think that nothing matters. Black pilled, you don't have to be necessarily red pilled. Like, there's a lot of environmentalist people who are also black pilled because they think that global warming is going to destroy the earth, and so they're black pilled in that regard. So black pilled means kind of basically like you have given up hope. And I think a lot of people are black pilled for a while, but then the next phase is usually the white pill, which is when people kind of discover Christianity or the Christ pill, and they become Christian or Catholic or Orthodox. And I've noticed that progression a lot, especially people who, start out with like Jordan Peterson. They tend to become more religious. And I know I've met several people. I am also was heavily influenced by Jordan Peterson when I was kind of a fallen away Catholic. So the white pill is the next step. And yeah, when people become white pilled and they return to the church and they realize that things are not perfect within the church either, whether it be, your Protestant sect or wherever. I'm a Roman Catholic. I'm a traditional Roman Catholic. So there's definitely a lot of issues today in 2022 within the church internally. And so, a lot of people, I would say the next progression from the white pill is to take the traditionalist pill and to become either a trad Catholic or an Orthodox Catholic. But I would say that many people who become Catholic or become Christian, they seek out kind of the older traditional values eventually, or that's at least very attractive to a young person such as myself. So the trad pill would be after the white pill. But by the time you get to that level, that's a lot of steps removed from where you start out, so if you've taken the trad pill, then that means you've probably taken the blue pill, then the red pill, then perhaps the black pill, then the white pill, then the trad pill. So that's like several degrees of separation from the average person on Reddit. So it can be kind of demoralizing, when you you've come this far and you want to, teach or show other people what you've discovered, but it seems like a lot of people they're just not there yet. If someone is blue pilled, they don't understand why they haven't gone through that progression, and it can be challenging sometimes to be able to share why you should take the trad pill. There has to be kind of like a logical psychological progression. So the question becomes, what is the best way to facilitate getting people to appreciate traditionalism and get to the trad pill? And it can be challenging because people are at different points. If you talk to someone on Reddit, they're going to be at a different place than someone who is constantly watching Ben Shapiro videos, who is a neocon, a neoconservative who believes that 1776 is the best possible era of time. You have to kind of approach talking to these people in different manners, and that is kind of a question I've been trying to figure out, is like, what is the best methodology to get people to understand that Americanism and modernism are bad. So, but there has to be just kind of like a progression to get to where you're thinking that traditionalism is the best way forward, and you have to kind of lay a trail of breadcrumbs in a way. And so I guess what the Benedict pill is an attempt to focus on what's in front of you, which sounds really lame, but we have to look at history and see what actually did happen in history, how the Catholic Church was able to grow and basically take over Europe. And it was because of people like St Benedict, who, when everything was collapsing, they weren't, arguing politically about who should be in charge. St. Benedict, what he did, and what you'll read about in this book, is, it's only like 80 pages, by the way. He just went out into the desert. He basically had the reject modernity of his time. Like, he went to Rome when he was young, and he saw how degenerate things were in Rome, and he decided that he wanted to go. He just went out into the desert and just started praying, started fasting. He worked on his own spiritual progression, and he became very holy. I've been listening to a lot of 𝚬𝚙𝚎𝚗. I definitely recommend. He's become traditional Catholic recently, and I think he's right. He says that the problem cannot be solved from the level at which it was created, and we can't. It would be very difficult to fix the problems of the modern world through working within the system. So what St. Benedict did is he basically rejected the system and he just started building. He went out in the desert and he started praying, fasting. He met, I think it was St. Romulus early on, but eventually people just started discovering him out in the desert, and they wanted to become his disciples because he was so holy. And this book is just crazy. Like, there's so many miracles that that happened with him. He fought against the devil and demons out in the desert, and kind of when things were collapsing, because the Germanic tribes basically came in and they invaded the Roman Empire, the Visigoths, Ostrogoths, all those guys, in the 400s, they basically came in and conquered everything. But St. Benedict wasn't screaming and with his hands up in the air saying the world is ending. He just went out in the desert and he started building. I think by the end of his life, he had several thousand disciples, and his twin sister, actually, St. Scholastica, she became a nun, and they were very holy. And St. Gregory the Great, who wrote this book, he was actually the one who really, a lot of people consider the beginning of the Middle Ages to be with the papacy of St. Gregory the Great, because he basically took over control of Rome in the aftermath of he basically saved Italy and Rome through his administration, and he was a Benedictine. So practically, when you take the St Benedict pill or the Benedict pill, what that means is to not be reactionary. Don't focus on worrying about how bad things are. You can just like watch Ben Shapiro videos all day and you'll become black-pilled and you'll be upset at all the craziness in the world. But that's outside of your control. You can't do anything about that. What you can do is you can focus on your family. You can focus on the people in your church. You can focus on the local level. And you can focus on building something. And it seems like that's the way forward, is to not worry so much about politics. We definitely do have to be involved to some degree, but we shouldn't be draining our emotional energy and our spiritual resources into, worrying and being reactionary. Yes, all this bad stuff is happening. There's a lot of problems in the world, but like, what can you as an individual do? And you might think that you might be making a huge difference by, posting memes on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm guilty of that for sure. And it's not that it has zero effect, but it's not really accomplishing anything. What we need to do is actually roll up our sleeves and just start building things from the ground up. And what I mean by building things is that we need to basically build a parallel economy. And because if you think about it, like, the supermarkets have only been around for about, I don't know, maybe 50 or 100 years. But before that, everything was just local. And everyone just like had a garden. The Industrial Revolution drove all the young people to the cities. But before that, everyone was just buying goods and services from people on the local level. And, when a lot of medieval civilization was actually built around monasticism. If you study the history of the Catholic Church and the history of Europe, what happened is the Roman Empire collapsed and a lot of people went to monasteries, and there was kind of an organic need for an economy that was centered around the monastery. For example, you need candles for mass. And so how do you get candles? Oh, by keeping bees. Okay, so that means that someone needs to keep bees. Okay, well, now there's honey coming out of those bees. Oh, well, we need to transcribe the scriptures. Oh, well, that means we need parchment, and parchment comes from sheep. That means someone needs to raise sheep. That means someone needs to get the feed and the food for the sheep. That means we need to clear land, and there's kind of a cascade effect that started from these monasteries. And it was just dudes out in the wilderness clearing, forests and kind of unhabitable lands, building stuff out of stones, and, not really thinking that they're going to change the world in one Facebook post. But they were out there just, over the course of lifetimes, just living simple lives and building things organically. One thing I'm interested in is the guild system and how that used to work, because, clearly the college education system in this country only works for some people. If you're getting like some sort of technical job that it's worth it, I would say, where you can make enough money. But most people are becoming wage slaves going through these institutions, and then they just go and work for corporations, and they have, $40,000 to $80,000 in student loans, and plus inflation, and wages are not rising. So it's increasingly becoming the case that it's not a viable option to just go through, the state-run college education system. And so I think the trades and the crafts are going to really emerge, especially if like things continue getting worse. It's 2022 right now, but inflation is going to keep increasing. So I think that those kinds of skills, like that require craftsmanship, that don't rely too much upon technology, are going to be good investments of time. Like teaching yourself how to grow a garden. I'm trying to start an herb garden this summer so I can learn more about herbs. Electricians, that's great. Things that things that are tangible. It seems like those types of skill sets are good, but I guess one of the main things that would be good to build if you're taking the St. Benedict pill is kind of the medium of exchange for kind of like a Christ-centered economy. Like, you know, we got to find people with our like-minded values. And where you're going to find that is in your local church and your local community. And yeah, so, you know, it's good to get to know your neighbors. It's good to get to know the people in your church. It's good to, and just get to know them. Everyone has so many unique gifts and talents. You know, if you have a big enough parish, there might be someone who's like, oh, well, I bake sourdough bread. And then another person might be like, oh, well, I grow pumpkins in my garden. And another person might be a plumber, you know. And if you can create some sort of system where people can interchange all these goods, then that's good, because that means that we're not reliant upon Amazon and Walmart to just survive and just have basic existence. So I think that is what is worth building moving forward, and that's what we should be doing. Is because, you know, there's going to probably be a big recession or something like that in the next however many years, and so it's kind of, if we can build out that infrastructure sooner or earlier, that will help us survive as Christian communities through when things get harder. We can actually help each other out. Not only that, but if we are buying and selling from each other within the parish, then that is a good thing, because then it strengthens our community. We get to know each other better, and I think that's what we got to do. I mean, it seems like the Jewish communities, they do that. They like to buy and sell from each other, and so why can't we do that as Catholics and as Christians in general? I think we should not support these major corporations with these mass-produced products, but we should focus on trying to build the local infrastructure. Also, I recommend get a St. Benedict medal. So, yeah, these medals are actually very good for spiritual protection, and I have mine here on my brown scapular. Yeah, there's a whole history. Maybe I'll do another video on the history of the Jubilee medal, but yeah, I don't know. I just, if this book, you can buy it on 10 books. If you go to 10 books for maybe $1 or so, I think it might be closer to $5, but it's only 80 pages, and a large chunk of it is talking about the miracles of St. Benedict, and it's really fascinating. A lot of the stuff that happened. There's one moment where there's this guy Totila who actually went and conquered Rome, and he came to St. Benedict, and St. Benedict, first Totila came and he sent a dude, this guy like dressed in his clothing, to St. Benedict, because he heard that St. Benedict had the gift of prophecy, and the guy came up dressed as Totila, and St. Benedict was like, "Get out of here! I know you're not Totila." And then so Totila came himself later on, and St. Benedict prophesied his future, and he said that you're going to conquer Rome, but you're going to rule for either 8 or 9 years, and you're going to die in the 10th year, and that actually did happen. So it's just crazy. I was very inspired when reading this book. St. Benedict, please pray for us. He was also such a strong. He was so strong that when some other monks found him in the desert, and they asked him to become their leader, and he went, and he's like, "I'm not sure if you guys want me to be your leader," but they're like, "Oh no, anyway, just like come anyways," and he's like, "All right," and he took over, and he was so hardcore and so strict that they actually tried to kill him because they were angry at him, and they tried to poison him with a glass, but then he made the sign of the cross over the glass, and the glass broke and it just exploded. And after that, he's like, "I told you so," and then he left. And so I don't know. There's something about the guy that I really appreciate. I don't really know much about the current state of the Benedictines, but I know they basically. What's cool about them is that they just built civilization up from nothing, and when everything was collapsing, and he wasn't out there complaining or being a reactionary, or he just went out in the desert and just put his head down. And I think that we need to have that kind of same mentality of not be in the world but not of it. Don't worry so much about all these, this person said this crazy thing, or and all that stuff. We need to focus on growing spiritually and then also building up the infrastructure physically. That way, when things do eventually get harder in this country, I'm here in the US, when things eventually do get harder, we will be prepared and we will be able to thrive and survive. All right. Well, I'm kind of just talking off the cuff here, but yeah, I'd say take the St Benedict pill. Even if you're not Catholic or if you're not Christian, you can still, like, that kind of mentality, it seems like, is what we need. And it's actually going to be more effective because we're actually building stuff. We're actually doing stuff. We're not just talking. So yeah, subscribe please, and I'll see you guys in the next video.